thing that we look at
every single time.
Every single time we go straight to the code. Has this page got a H1 heading? And if it doesn't, highly likely they haven't had any SEO done on their website before.
And if it is a H1 heading, why does it have the word home written in it, or welcome,
or something completely
irrelevant
generic
to the business?
Yeah. So the H1 heading is really categorizing your whole content. It's saying to Google, this is what all this content below this heading is all about. Yeah. And if you have home as a description of your content, unless you're actually a home builder or a home designer,
it's not going to have any impact.
Completely no impact. You just Welcome to the Digital Marketing Wingman podcast, the podcast where we bring you helpful tips and advice on websites, Google, and social media. Hey everybody, welcome to the Digital Marketing Wingman podcast episode number 4. I'm Nathan George, and I've got across the desk from me Nicholas Katzenberis.
Howdy all.
And this week we've decided to talk on the 7 keys to on-page SEO. So search engine optimization, it's a pretty big space, and it can go very, very technical at times. But today we're just going to talk about what you can do on a page, all the key elements, and this is what any professional will do, but any amateur can do to help that page rank on Google. So to begin with, the first element, the first thing that you should look at when you're trying to optimize a page for SEO, say you've identified a service or something that you offer as a product or service and you want to rank for that term. So maybe it's hot water services, maybe you're a plumber and you want to rank for hot water service in Geelong. The title tag is the little strip that appears at the top of the browser tab.
Yep.
And you can edit that in WordPress. It's nice and easy. It's generally just the name of your page, or
you could specify that inside a SEO plugin. If you've got something like Yoast, you could set something specific, not just the title of the page.
Now, this is by far the most important place to get this right, the keyword in this title tag. And there's definitely a preferred format or structure for doing so.
Yeah.
So do you want to elaborate, Nick, on what you would do normally for a page title?
So if it was a plumber, you'd probably have something like hot water services Geelong, and then you'd have the little pipe symbol, and then you'd have your business name after that.
So the pipe symbol is kind of like a separator. So that you generally have the business name on the end of every single page on your website, so that anyone who's browsing or finds your page listed in Google, they can at least see your brand name. But it's always at the end, isn't it? A lot of people get that wrong and they put the brand name first.
At the start, yeah.
Yeah, but it should be the keyword at the start and the brand last.
Well, that's how we do it with all our sites.
And the separator, the pipe symbol, which is shift / I believe, is a tricky one.
Yeah.
There's no real reason why the pipe is used as a separator. I think you can use any separator that you think.
I think it looks cleaner, maybe.
It's become sort of
I think it's just the way it looks, but I don't think it has real impact.
There's no impact, but it's a de facto standard, I guess.
Yeah.
So I get one of the best references online for SEO is probably Moz, and they just suggest using pipe. But they also admit that it doesn't have any impact.
No.
Okay. And so you've roughly got 50 to 60 characters to fit into a title tag.
That's not a lot.
It's not a lot. But you don't want to stuff it with keywords. It's still got to be human readable. So you can't just have hot water service Geelong hot water service.
No.
Water service hot.
I don't think that has any impact. I think Google would only read that word once anyway.
Exactly, yeah. So you could have something like hot water service Geelong, best plumber or professional plumber.
Bob's Plumbing.
Bob's Plumbing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would work.
Yeah, for sure.
And so you might get your primary keyword, and then you might have some secondary keywords that follow.
If you've got enough room for it. Yeah.
Okay. The second SEO element that you should focus on is the meta description. So that's when you actually come up in Google search, that's the text that describes the page below the title.
Yeah.
Now, this has zero impact on your rankings. Adding content to this actually has no impact. So stuffing it with keywords really has no benefit. The main benefit of your meta description is that people are more likely to click it when they read it if they think it speaks to them.
And it's generally used if someone shares your website on social media. That's generally the snippet that gets shared on things like Facebook. So you want to make sure you don't just stuff it with keywords.
Yeah. And so, although it has the words in the description themselves have no real impact on the rankings, how people react or behave with your results can have an impact. So it has this like indirect effect. So if it's a really good description that people relate to and they click it, the fact that Google can recognize that people are clicking that result more, and in turn that helps your rankings. So think about this one in a more user-centric method, I guess, and write something that's really going to appeal and draw them into your page. But best practice is to still include the keyword that you want to rank for in the description, because the user is more likely to associate with that straight away if that's the words that they typed into search. Okay. All right. The third element on a page is the URL, or the address for the page. And if possible, you want to try and get that keyword in there. So if it was hot water services again, you would want to have your domain name / Bob's
Plumbing / hot-water-services-Geelong.
Yeah. And so you always separate words with a hyphen, not an underscore. And we're really talking about secondary pages right now. The home page, there's not much you can do about that because your domain is your domain. There was an old theory that having keyword-rich domain names helped you a lot, and it probably did help maybe 10 or more years ago by having hotwaterservicegeelong.com.au. And there is some benefit, but it's very minimal now. Google doesn't give nearly as much weight to keywords in a domain name. So in WordPress, for example, you can change that. It's called the permalink. And it's usually based off of the title of your page. So hopefully that has the keyword in it anyway. But you can modify that URL to be whatever you like. Alrighty, now the fourth one is headings within your page. So that's the H1 tag, the H2 tag, all the different sized headings. And this is the first thing that we look at
every single time.
Every single time we go straight to the code. Has this page got a H1 heading? And if it doesn't, highly likely they haven't had any SEO done on their website before.
And if it is a H1 heading, why does it have the word home written in it, or welcome?
Or something completely
irrelevant
generic.
To the business.
So the H1 heading is really categorizing your whole content, saying to Google, this is what all this content below this heading is all about. And if you have home as the description of your content, unless you're actually a home builder or a home designer,
it's not going to have any impact.
Completely no impact. You're just like all the other noobs that don't have any.
And there'd be millions of websites that just have welcome to my website.
Absolutely, so many. So important to really, especially on your homepage, but on a page that you're trying to rank, to really summarize what that page is all about in a very succinct, clear H1 heading, I think. Is
there a recommended length for the H1?
I don't think there's a recommended length, but just, I guess, short and sweet. Like, I personally wouldn't go any more than 5 or 6 word sentences. It's not the be all and end all. I mean, you can get away, you still could get a page to rank without a H1 heading, but it's all these tiny little 1%ers that add up to really indicating to Google what your page is about. So,
and from a user's point of view, if your website's structured correctly, having that H1 tag with a relevant title would make it clear that that's what that page or website's about. So,
and then realistically, it should flow on so that you've got maybe a H1, some content, and then maybe a couple of H2 headings that go into even more content, and that they flow on. The topics flow on, so it's not just hot water services, and then the H2 is talking about donuts. Like, it has to flow on hot water services, then it's hot water service installations, hot water service repairs, and it flows on, and the content beneath those is relevant to the heading, and it really it sets the structure for Google, but it sets the structure for the users reading the content as well. It makes it much more readable. Okay, so that leads on to what you would assume would be the main one, but it's not. But it's content, actually having the keyword in your content. Now, these days, I tell all of the clients when they're writing blogs or content for their own website, do not write for Google, do not write for SEO. But it is important to have some keywords in your page, but it's got to appear natural. It can't be forced, and it shouldn't be repeated.
Well, then it just sounds like a robot, and Google knows straight away.
And you can tell those sites, you're ruining your customer experience. When I go to a website and
you can't read it,
and I can tell that content is not intended for me, it's intended for Google, I instantly think that it's a dodgy website.
And it's not relevant to you, so you just leave the website.
Exactly. And that has an impact. If someone's coming to your site and then leaving straight away, that has a negative impact on your SEO. So I definitely recommend that you write the content for users, not for Google. But obviously, hot water services Geelong again, I'd be writing in my first paragraph, my company, Bob's Plumbing, provides hot water services Geelong wide.
Yeah.
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
Or the best hot water services Geelong has ever seen. Or something that twists it but gets that phrase in a natural way.
Yeah, as natural as possible.
As natural as possible. All right, and then the last two elements are fairly related. Images. Now this is an easy one that a lot of people don't do. A lot of people don't think about this. The alt description or the alternative description for an image is the obvious one, or the easier one to do.
Yep.
So make sure that when you're inserting images in your website, there's an appropriate description of what that image is.
Yep. And that's the description that you see when you hover over an image and a little tooltip pops up and says what the title of the image is.
Yep, or if someone's...
screen readers as well.
Screen readers, yeah. If anyone's disabled using a screen reader. So it's important to do from a usability standpoint. But I'm going to say you can get a little bit dodgy here and get a little bit... This is where you probably can get a bit more keyword stuffing.
Yeah, it works.
You can get away with it. So I might have...
If there's 1 or 2 images on the page, not 100 images.
Well, if I had to say 3 images on the page, maybe they are pictures of hot water services, but like I would have one of the descriptions as hot water service Geelong, maybe hot water service repairs Geelong. I'd use the keywords in a little bit more of a spammy way because it's less obvious.
Yeah.
It doesn't really have too much of an impact on the on most users, and it still is a description of a hot water service. So you probably get away with just adding in locations and things like that into the descriptions of your images. But the last one, which people definitely skip over, is the file names. So that actually sends another ranking signal that image that's within your page is about that topic as well. So similar to URLs, you separate the words with hyphens, not underscores. So I might have my image of a hot water service called hot-water-service-geelong.jpg.
Yep.
Insert that in the middle of my post, give it the same description without the hyphens in plain language. And that's another signal. So that's the 7 elements. They're all pretty easy to update. And once you've sort of identified what that page is all about...
That would take you 10 minutes to update your homepage, easily.
It's the most bog standard, simple thing you can do, and it's the most effective thing you can do to start ranking your site. There's no point in doing anything more advanced with SEO.
Until you have the foundation.
Until you've got that foundation set up, there's absolutely no point. So with those 7 elements, you're really clearly identifying to Google what that page is about, and you've got a much better chance of ranking for that term. Fantastic. All right, well, we're going to leave it short and sweet this week.
Yep.
That's our 7 tips. Title tag, description, URL, headings, content, the image alt description, and the image file name. Good luck with that. And yeah, we'll talk to you next week on podcast number 5.
See you guys.
Bye.
Was it